Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-Driven CEO podcast. I am welcoming to the show Greg Adams. Welcome to the show, Greg.
Thanks so much, Bea. Very excited to be here. And, you know, being from New York City, currently where I'm located right now, and speaking all the way down to Australia, to Melbourne, it's fabulous. Really excited for our
Yeah.
country.
Where's the NYC views, the vibes? Like I'm looking for the skyscrapers, right? I'm
Yeah,
like,
so I'm looking out at skyscrapers. Matter of fact, I have JP Morgan right across the street.
oh really? Whereabouts exactly are you right now in New York?
We
Like,
are in the heart of Times Square
oh
on
really?
40th and Broadway. And
Yeah,
so all
okay.
the big lights and flashing signs are out there. And I always like to say I'm above the Krispy Kreme donut shop.
Oh, okay,
The
cool.
penny donuts.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I do love it. And I know exactly where it is. I can always visualize. I feel like I've been to New York enough to just stick to whenever you get lost, get back to Broadway Street. You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
always, and follow it. And anyway, here's a fun fact. I walked from the bottom of Broadway to the very top. And I remember at the time quite a few of the New York people were like, "You walked that far? What are you doing?" Like
That's right.
I'm putting on the I'm putting on the accent, and I'm going to get you to put on the Aussie accent at some point in the
All
show
right.
today. But let's get into it, Greg. So you're the CFO, Chief Financial Officer at the American Management Association, which is AMA. You across, I'd say more than 25 years, you've held senior roles, CFO, COO, director in public and private sectors. Your biggest accolade of recent times, though, is being the author of the international crime thriller Green Shades, which you've got the book right there.
Yeah.
Winner of the 2025 Excellence in Financial Journalism Best Book Award. Well done, big congratulations. I wish I had the sound effects and I'd hit the clap, clap, clap. So
Yeah.
written to change perceptions of accountants and highlight the profession's human edge. Keen to explore that. Earlier in your career, talk about again degrees of separation. You spent 3 years with KPMG in Sydney. Sydney, I'm a Melbourne girl, but I know Sydney well. And you graduated from William and Mary BBA Accounting, where it goes to show that you are also a team player. And I get the feeling you're a team player in business, but you captained the baseball team, so that would have put you in good stead for your career. Tell us about your journey because we did catch up, I think, last week and had a bit of a meet and greet, and we had a lot of things we wanted to explore and breaking
Yeah.
down.
I'll give the what we call in the United States the Reader's Digest version, really quick version of my career. After college and university, I went worked for KPMG, one of the big four accounting firms. Although back then it was the Big Eight, and I was fortunate enough. I was there for 11 years, but three of those 11 years, I was fortunate to work in Sydney and actually live in Manly Beach.
Ah,
And
there you
I
go.
really got into it, and part of being a team player was there. During weekends, I rode surfboats and
Oh,
life.
cool.
That was exciting, and and hung out with the few of the mates, and also did a little bit of cricket. Learned how to play some cricket, being some of my baseball tactics. But yeah, I had a great time there. It was tough going back to New York after that because the lifestyle and the work life balance is very different in New York City than it is in Sydney, particularly in Manly Beach. But I managed to stay here and back in New York for a while, and I visit as often as I can. And actually, I was just there last Christmas and New Year's. I was in Sydney visiting some mates and having a good time, and going up to the Whitsunday Islands with my wife and daughter. It
I
was
just caught a
fabulous.
little bit of Aussiness in you when you said mates. It sounded like you said it in an Australian with a bit of an Australian accent.
Yeah, I definitely picked up a few a few words and accents, that's for sure. And as a matter of fact, last year or a couple years ago, I was even at the Rugby World Cup.
Oh, how cool.
Uh, yeah, unfortunately, the Aussies got thrashed by Scotland when I was in Lyon. But I think the Aussies are hosting the World Cup next in 2027 in Australia. Will be the World Cup. But
Okay.
I digress. So after KPMG, I left and during the dot-com phase and helped a company go public called Edgar Online, which manages SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission filings. They digitize them. So it's trying to make information democratized for all, be able to see real-time financial information, which gets filed into the SEC's Edgar system, electronic data gathering, analysis, and retrieval. And that topic also keys into my book about SEC filings and insider trading. And by the way, Green Shades, the majority of the story takes place in Australia.
Yeah, you did say that.
And very, very interesting. And it just came out on Audible. And so I was able to pick some interesting accents, which was a lot of fun.
Very cool.
So, yeah, so as I say, after KPMG, I was CFO of a few public companies, and it's nice being with a public company. But the difficult thing is you kind of have 4 year ends. Each quarter, you have to report to the investors and explain how the company is doing. And then after that journey, and after selling some of those companies, I joined some private equity firms, working in some of their small private companies, and then now I've settled in for the last 5 years at American Management Association, which is a nice non-for-profit company. And really what's great about it is the mission. And a similar mission like what you do is we're trying to help individuals get better and perform better at work and feel good. Not only skills wise with some soft skills with communication skills and critical thinking, but also almost spiritually skills, just to feel better about themselves and really contribute and have a mission, a goal.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
to
the
be
important.
fulfilled. I think, it's not even in just individuals, is it, right? It's like it's leaders, it's teams, it's businesses, but it starts it starts at an individual level. Because
Absolutely.
when an individual is whole, when they're like, when they're interconnected, when they're like they've got their mission, they can then bring that to the team, and then you can create the team mission. They can then bring that to the business, then the business. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those domino effects that I think is more important than ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some of the leaders, in particular, they lose sight of communicating that mission, that vision for the company. Because really you need to have everybody on the same page of, not only growth and grow the business, but also sustainability. American Management Association has been around for 102 years.
Wow.
Yeah, sustainability is very important, and
Yeah.
particularly when you have a mission of helping employees, get better and have an impact on their job and
Yeah.
how they work, how they
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
when they go.
And Greg,
Yeah.
we talked. We're probably going to jump around a bit, but I do love a pivot. It's my non-linear style. Nothing's ever A to B. I'm always surprising people with my questions and my conversations. It's probably this picture and how my brain works. But well, you and I had a bit of a brief chat, and like from a CFO perspective, Chief Financial Officer, it's Mr. Serious, right? Or Mrs. Serious, Miss Serious. It's a serious role. But even when I called out this desire for that human edge, the CFO, in my experience, and I've had great CFOs and great finance partners. They're not just clinical. They're not just like commercial. They bring a lot to the table. And you called out a couple of things around critical thinking, problem solving, etc. I've always found the best financial, people that I've worked with, they've been my like partner. They've been my partner in crime, so to speak, talking about a book as such, in terms of, it's the yin and the yang, like they'll have an idea. I always have an idea. It's like, how do they complement each other and how do they work? I guess I want to talk to you about that because, like we've been very driven by a profit focused world, and it's like hit your number, your margins, your profit, whatever it takes sort of thing. And it's almost like this fear, it's been like almost like a bit of a fear tactic, if you ask me, in some ways. You've now moved into a not-for-profit, and I'm not suggesting that all non-not-for-profits are like that, but like, what's your take on it? Because, were you trained to be almost like not a hard ass, but do you know what I mean? Like, and then what's
Yeah.
your what's your
And,
view on
and I
it
think
all?
in particular, the role of the CFO, in particular, over the last 25 years since I've been CFO, it has changed pretty dramatically. It used to be more reporting, risk, compliance, measuring risk, managing risk, and often saying the word no. And you were forced to, you always said no.
Yeah.
People, what is the ROI, return on investment? But there's a lot more things that go into return on investment. And so I think the role has changed now with CFOs of it's more about, again, growth and sustainability, but also providing that leadership, that executive presence to make people feel comfortable, to make it more collaborative, bring folks in, explain the macroeconomic situation of what's going on. I mean, here in the United States right now, we have a significant, crazy economic environment and macroeconomic environment, not only here actually in the United States, but all around the world.
Well, yeah.
Starting starting with really COVID, how things have changed, all the way up to now here is the government shutdown. And earlier in the year in the US was Doge cuts. Our friend Elon Musk was making all these cuts. And that impacted a lot of people's lives because a lot of the government funding here in the US help organizations, particularly not-for-profit organizations, grow and help the community. And when those funds were being pulled and cut back, that hurt a lot of folks, a lot of
Yeah.
people. So a lot of missions were changed. And the CFO's role was to make sure you clearly communicate it, but really work lockstep with the CEO and with the executive management team to make every employee understand and know which direction we're going. What's your A business? What's your core business of what you're going to pay your bills with? But then what's your B business? What's the future going to be like?
Yeah.
Everything's changing. If you don't change, you're going to get left behind. And so you have to know what your future business is, your B business, but while the maintaining your A business. And like Ford Motor Company, for example, they just sort of pull back a little bit on electric vehicles, EVs. They went a little bit too fast in their B business. So you got to go with the times. So
Yeah.
we'll see it.
Yeah.
Uh,
I always call the A business shoring up your base, ensuring your base is shored up. Like we always use that language, shore up, how are you shoring up your baseline? The one
yeah.
thing I used to and I shouldn't even say used to, but it was always kind of in the previous role I was in, and I use it now in my own business, but it was always like, and I would love your answer, like your thoughts on this was just this. There's always been like I talked about non-linear very briefly earlier, but I was always like in terms of forecasting and financial forecasting, and we used to have to forecast for like and this was leading up to the year of COVID, like just before COVID. It was like, we want your 12-month, business plan forecasting. And I get it, like, of course. But then it was always like, it used to dement me because I was like, how can we predict what we're going to see as, plan A and plan B between now and they wanted it so shored up. It was ridiculous. It was like impossible. And I used to always have this like real struggle with it. And I'd be like, where is the logic here? Like, you're not even understanding. Like, it's impossible. And then because they'd hold you to it, right? And as the managing director, CEO of the business, like it was like I was held to it. And if I didn't hit that number, you know, it was kind
It
of like,
physically drains you, probably. It's an
yeah.
unhealthy way to work, I
But
think.
I knew from from the cycle of the business, I knew, for example, like from January through till June, we were really busy. Like it was a busy period. And then from June to say September or whatever, we kind of calmed down because our clients were in planning mode. I knew the complete cycle of the business. But I was instructed I had to hit a baseline number across, and I'm just like, it's not logical. It doesn't make sense. And this is where it was like this argy-bargy. It was just this like, we're not working together. You're not listening, like, and so then we'd just butt heads, like, because it was just like, well, and then I would just like, me being me, would just be like, like,
Yeah.
what's your thoughts on that? Because we're in this really ambiguous world right now. Like you say, like, like even my own accountant sometimes will question me on things, and I'm like, I can't predict what it's going to look like.
No, you cannot predict what's going to look like, and that's why, yeah, I think these rolling forecasts that were very popular over the years, I think was a distraction too much to getting your work done sometimes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I think CFOs are starting to change a little bit, maybe leveraging technology a little better to predict the future, particularly some AI that we have going on currently with analysis and data. But that I feel your pain there because I always tried to stay away personally from pushing forecasts down people's throats. We make a budget during the year. We try to stick to the budget. Maybe quarterly we adjust that budget, but not monthly. Things change. I just said things change so quickly. The amount of change between 2020 and 20, 2000 and 2020, there hasn't been a lot of change. I mean, decent amount of change at that, lots a lot of things. But I would say the change from 2020 to 2025, the last 5 years, has been more exponential. And so how can you make a budget and stick to a budget when it's exponential like that? CFOs have to be flexible and just look top side and understand that there's peaks and valleys and there's definitely seasonality. Most businesses have seasonality, and it's just the fact of life. And so you manage accordingly, and
Yeah.
you have to pivot when you can. So I'm not a big believer in forcing budgets down people's throats, and because facts and circumstances change, and you can't hold everyone's feet to the fire, and then there's only so many hours in the day.
Yeah, so I want to jump into your book in a second, but I've got a couple more questions around this. In terms of, you talked around almost like the marriage of or the relationship partnership of the CFO and CEO and how critical it is to be hand in glove. And I couldn't agree more. It's a partnership, right? And you need to be, lockstep sort of thing. What do you just mentioned AI, like what are you seeing as I guess there's two questions here. What are you seeing as the future of the CFO role, or how integral, I mean, finance is never going to go away, of course, like how important it is. And I'm talking from a commercial side, but also like, a mission side, do good in business. So, like to ensure that everyone's engaged, team engagement sort of thing. That's my first question. And then the second question is like, is this is the state of the economy right now and the state of the world, is this like it? Is this as in, is this going to like, you hear people saying, oh, it's going to calm down, it's going to get better, it's going to be this. Like I'm very hopeful, I'm very optimistic, right? But I think that we're in this world now that is unpredictable, and this is just how we now maneuver in it. How do we work in it? How do we get around it? How do we find ways to make it work for us versus
Yeah.
hoping that it's going to go back to the way it was, because it's just not. So there's
No,
two
it's not.
two big questions there.
Yeah. First I think artificial intelligence is it's here to stay, and it is growing exponentially, and it's something to embrace to make us more productive and to help us succeed in our careers, et cetera. So I think it needs to be embraced. At the American Management Association, we have a whole lineup of AI courses.
Yeah, cool.
From how leaders deal with AI to how managers deal with AI, and hands-on workshops of how to use Chat GPT or how to use video in AI. But at the same time, how to know about the risks of AI and the compliance and intellectual property issues.
Yeah.
So it could be scary to some people, but I think it needs to be embraced. That the technology changes, like any technology, it needs to be embraced. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, the changes in the last 5 years have been exponential, I think, from the last 20 years, the change in the work environment and how we leverage it. So, I think it's a tool to put in your toolbox and use it for good. Use it to make the business more efficient. And as I tell my finance staff, yeah, maybe we'll leverage AI to do normal, just transactional items, but you still need that critical thinking.
Yeah, 100%.
That's so much,
The human
and you still
edge.
need that emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
And AI going to help you with communication and tact and how to think critically. And I don't know, it'll assist you with that, but still, that a machine won't be able to communicate with tact and diplomacy. It won't give you
No.
a nice way to work with people. So it is again just a tool, I think, for everyone to stay on top of, to leverage. But if I'm going to be with B Murray, I need to be myself. I can't be a machine with program to think about all of it.
No, I love
Now there
that.
is
So
wonderful
true.
tools with AI. And for example, I just leveraged AI just recently with my book. Amazon reached out to me and said, "Hey, we noticed that you don't have your book on audio yet. Do you want to be a beta and convert your book to audio? And by the way, you can pick different accents for different sections of the book." And I just finished that, and now my book is on audio, Audible,
It's very
for only
cool.
$6.99. So it's brilliant. So yeah, there's an example of just using it, to help you be more productive
Yeah.
and save money and time.
Yeah.
That's a lot of it, save money and time. The amount of productivity probably will go up, and it has been going up exponentially over the last decade with everything in our jobs. But hopefully, the human aspect of having to feel good about going to work every day and still being able to work to live rather than live to work, which Australians do very well. I think they prioritize much better than U.S. workers do as far as having work as a means to live nice and have fun. And I remember when I was in Sydney, sometimes I would ask, "Where's so and so? Why is he in the office?" He goes, "Oh no, he's surfing. The waves were up this morning. He'll be in about 12. She'll be right. Don't worry about it." And
Yeah.
that's great. That's the way it should be.
So true. Yeah.
To
Yeah.
prioritize a little differently. So it may be a little scary that technology is going to change and AI is going to take over jobs, but it's again a productivity tool more than anything else. And we try to teach that here too. Of here's how to use it, and here's some of the pitfalls to be aware of, because there are
Yeah.
some pitfalls, particularly around intellectual property and maybe getting sued on using other people's content without permission.
Yeah.
Somebody all of a sudden somebody will be there might be an AA character that looks like you, B, and you're talking, and
I
I
know.
realize, oh no, that's not you.
I know. Does
there's
it's
only
probably
there's
already
only one you and there's only
is
one me. So
it's yeah, totally. Yeah, there really is, right? Yeah. Yeah. And what about my second point of question around the predictability of the future, financially, economically, all of that? Like, what's your view? Like, is this, I should say, is this it? But it
yeah,
yeah.
it's hard to predict. I think economically it's going to help, because I think it will make everyone a little bit, or businesses a little bit more productive. Maybe it'll make it more predictable. So I don't have to ask you to do a reforecast. I'll be able to reforecast by just leveraging technology on my Excel, Copilot, or whatever it might be. But economically, I would hope it would help many more countries than it does right now,
Yeah.
that are the places. There's certain undeveloped countries that probably will be able to leverage AI and help them succeed and go further, and hopefully medicine will be the top winner with AI,
Yeah.
with cures for cancer maybe, who
Yeah.
they can lead
That
the
would be
human
nice. Would be so
genetics.
good.
Yeah, it would be nice. So I'm hoping there's no big economic downturn, and I don't think there will be. We still need to take care of each other, so I think that's important.
That's good. I like to hear that there won't be any economic downturn. It's been a bit of a wild 2025. 2026 is looking and feeling good. Uh,
Yeah.
Greg, when you booked in for the pod, and I asked the question around what is one unique insight, lived experience in life, leadership, or business, you said storytelling for finance professionals and making accountants cool again with a little smiley emoji. This has obviously got to do with your book because then you referred to the CPAauthor.com. Tell us a bit about this.
Okay, yeah. One big driving force on my book, and it did take me about 7 years plus to write it, and I didn't use AI to write any of my book.
Well done.
And as an author, you write what you know and what you experience. So no surprise, a lot of my book does take place in Australia. Um, but as far as what really drove me is that as a CPA, certified public accountant, you're always asked, "What do you do?" And I would always have to give the but answer, I call. I'm an accountant, but I really do some cool things. I went up Krakow gold mine in Queensland and hung out with the geologists and the miners up there. And you do many different things. My brother-in-law is a controller at a ski resort in Colorado. So there's
Oh,
many
which
different
one?
things that accountants do. And so the book, was kind of stemmed from that. And originally it was sort of a storytelling research guy because part of being a good accountant is storytelling. Yeah, I can present the numbers, but you got to tell a story of what's going on with these numbers. I mean,
It's so
it's
funny. It's so funny you
so
say that. I just want to pause on that for 1 second because I could not agree more. I love creative accounting in terms of that was one of my favorite subjects, and I was really good at it in terms of because you were able to tell a story with the numbers, and I love that bit. But when
yeah. I always tell to the staff, make the numbers come alive, and
yeah,
you have to spar with your audience.
yeah,
When I say spar, it means identify a situation. Typically, there might be a problem. Okay, what's the action that we're going to take? And then what's the result? What's the remedy? And so always spar with your audience and take them on that journey
that's
and
cool.
take them on that journey with the storytelling.
Yeah, I love that. It's very good because it's true
Yeah,
because you are like you've always there's always something you spot. There's always a problem that needs to be solved.
yeah, absolutely. So I wanted Green Shades to be, initially started the stories, but I became a big Jack Reacher fan over the years, reading Jack Reacher novels, and he's a big tough guy and all. And I love Lee Childs. I had an opportunity to talk to and meet and learn how his processes of writing and how he tries to pull the audience in. And Green Shades. First of all, I have to warn you about Green Shades. It's there's a bit of violence in there, maybe some sexual tension, and accounting equations. So I got to warn you about the accounting equations. But the story in general is there's a big public accountant, a big accounting firm. He's got a big audit, global audit, and he asked his friend, his partner from Sydney, to go to India to do an audit of a XBRL facility, or basically it's a SEC, Securities Exchange facility. They tag documents before they file them with the SEC with XM tags. When the partner from Sydney comes back to Australia, days later, his body is found dead on the northern beaches of Sydney. And when our protagonist, Dex McCord, comes to the funeral, he starts to unravel the facts that this was no surfing accident like the police said he died. There's something more behind this. And so from there, the story gets a little bit crazy and a little bit wild. But all along, I try to interject some accounting foundations of things what happens in the accounting and auditing world and what happens in the Securities Exchange Commission world and what happens with financial regulations and as well as what technology is going on all the same time trying to make it fun. And during Dex's adventures he gets saved by a dive instructor named Kendall Cove. And Kendall Cove, oh, she has her own dive company, but her original job was an accountant, having that foundation to build business in accounts. So
It's very interesting. How did you come into writing a book? Like you've got such a like I mean this comes back to the creative accounting, right? This is like this you've got this like yeah, you're not just numbers like and so when did you decide I'm going to write a book? And your book is like I need to read it because it's like it's very like it's got a serious storyline, right? Like in terms of
yeah, very,
yeah, and
very
just
serious
listening to
storyline.
you talking about it, like you can just see. And I'm like, when's the sequel coming out? And then I'm thinking, is this going to become like a little movie? Like I shouldn't say little. Is this going to become a movie? What do you like? Just
God, a
even
lot of people ask me when's the Netflix series coming out on
yeah, well, that's
this,
what I
right?
was about to say. That's why I didn't mean a little movie, but I mean a Netflix series, for example. It took you
Yeah,
7 years to write it. You wrote it all by yourself. Like, at what point did you th decide I'm going to write a book?
yeah, it really came back down to that butt answer that I tell so many people that yeah, I'm an accountant, but I have a lot of stories. I've done many different things, particularly as an auditor. Before you get into the private world of accounting, you do a lot of things. So I wanted to really make accountants cool. And so, combining my experience of talking to Lee Childs, the author of Jack Reacher, and reading some of his novels, and reading also, I like historical fiction novels. where historical fiction might be a point of history where you're following 4 or 5 characters in that moment of history. And so this is sort of like accounting historical fiction at times of what was going on in the world. But this story has big global consequences that gets disclosed at the end, so kind of a surprise ending. And I have been asked when is Green Shades 2 coming out, and so I'm noodling some things there, and maybe the opening scene might not be in Australia, maybe the opening scene might be in New Zealand this time. I don't know, but I like the Southern Hemisphere. It's a good backdrop for a great story.
Love it. And the name, the title Green Shades, where does that come from?
So accountants were known as the green eye shades employees. When they were typing on the computer, they had green eye shades to get the glare out so they could see the numbers. So if you look up, if you just Google green shades, what profession is green shades? First thing will come up is accountants. So that's why I say green shades with the dollar sign. I thought, oh, that's a little bit unique. And there's some acronyms there that accountants might recognize. The Big Four and the AICPA and the FASB, the SEC, FINRA. These are mostly U.S. terms, but most people in finance understand those terms, and it's interesting.
I
So
love it. I love it.
yeah, it gets back to storytelling and be able to tell a story. And I've had a great feedback. Look at some of the reviews I have on Amazon. People just even using it to help them, be able to tell their own story at work, to think creatively. And when you start thinking creatively, then you start becoming, to a degree, a leader. And people want to hear more.
Yeah.
And that's a lot what it's about. Of everyone has their own story, so it's nice to tell a story. And I was fortunate enough to be able to put pen to paper and have a few laughs at the same time.
And breaking down that like breaking down that perception of like the finance people or like, and that was one big thing I certainly did with, in the is like finance was integral to the team. They weren't just sitting in a corner, just seeing the number crunches. They played a massive role in our business. I used to have like I always had my finance partner at times in pitches or dealing directly with clients because he was great. He was had this ability to be able to, like you say, the way you said earlier, I've just lost my train of thought, but you were talking about what you tell.
Bring the numbers to life. You
Bring the
got to
numbers
tell a
to
story.
life. Yeah, and he
Yeah.
loved it. Like, and I used to watch him and I'd be like, oh yeah, here he's on fire. We'd all make like, yeah, go. Well, I won't call out names sort of thing, but yeah, you make a really great point. Like breaking down perception, everyone has an opportunity to have well, everyone has a story, so everyone should be given the opportunity to tell the story. And it puts you in good stead to be then a leader because your vibe attracts your tribe, right? Like,
Yeah, and it's good to it keeps you from being stagnant. You need to be imaginative sometimes at work, and
yeah,
that just makes it more exciting. Makes you want to get dressed and go into the office every day, or at least jump on if you work on the computer. But yeah, I'm a big believer of in-person training. Like here at American Management Association, I do come to the office 5 days a week. I'm kind of unique in that matter, but most everyone's starting to come in 2 or 3 days a week. I think it's really important to have that collaborative feeling, to have those ad hoc discussions in someone's office. And our training it's about 50-50. It used to be 90% in person. Now it's about 50-50, 60-40 virtual. And yeah, virtual is good, but I think if you have an opportunity to do training, do it in person because you learn more about the people in the classroom and the stories that they have, and you understand then that you're all going through very, very similar things,
agreed.
similar issues, similar topics. So it's nice having that feeling of meeting other people and learning and networking is important too when you're out there. But
Yeah, I agree.
nice stories. So if you become a good storyteller, yeah, you'll get a nice audience, and it just helps you all around.
I agree. So what do you think of the top three, well, most critical three things right now for leaders, you know, going
Yeah, I would
forward?
say first is probably building trust. As a leader, people have to trust you. They have to understand what you're saying, and they want to be with you. The next, I think, is uh, anticipating needs, anticipating what's the trends are. What's going to happen in the future, which is it's not easy.
No.
Maybe that's where AI will help us. Some trends in the future. History repeats itself, so that's important. And but last is really just ensuring as a leader that everyone's collaborating, that everyone has one single purpose. So it may not all be all about profit sometimes too. It's important that how'd you get to the answer?
Yeah.
And so those are, I think, really, really important things. And but particularly try to anticipate, the evolving needs of a company and where it needs to go. And it gets back to, I stress usually three things. I usually stress growth and sustainability. That's important. But then, third is, working together,
Yeah.
collaborating.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. What last question for you? What do you think? So I've asked you about what leaders are the top three, but what do you think leaders need to let go of
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
part of moving into as part of as we continue to we're in like a massive revolution at the moment. What do they need to let go of?
Yeah. I think they need to let go a lot of the day-to-day activity, and think big picture on where you're going to be. What's going to be your B business? Let others focus on your A business. They'll keep the engines running, and but really focus on the B business. And good leaders do that, and they communicate very well on where the company is heading. But part of doing that is that you have to trust people. You have to delegate. And when you delegate, and I always tell folks when I delegate a task to somebody, is that I know you're not going to have it right 100% the first time, and you're not going to have it right 100% the second and third times. But I tell you, by the fourth time, I'm probably not making many changes on what you're giving me anymore.
Yeah.
And so delegation is so important as a leader, and that leads to trust, and it gets back to building trust with
Yeah.
others.
I love it.
And
Greg, how do we
once you
oh
build that
sorry.
trust, it's great.
I love it. How do we find out about more about your book? Where do we buy your book from? And how do we find out more about you?
All right. Yeah, I think you'll find out a lot about me and my book at cpa-author.com. And you'll see some videos there. I talk about the synopsis. You'll see a tremendous video, very funny video about accountants from an organization called Morning Brew here in the United States. A comedian named Dan Toomey who talks about accountants, but also he was nice enough to feature my book uh,
Very cool.
in his narrative, and he put some characters to some of my characters in the book, real life characters, and so that was very funny. But yeah, cpa-author.com. The book is available on Amazon, whether you want it as an ebook or a print or now on Audible. You'll enjoy it. I guarantee you'll enjoy it, and you'll probably even learn something that accountants are pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you're cool. I love it. Yeah, I'm gonna get a hold of this book and read it. We're coming into our got a couple more months before Christmas and summer
That's right.
holidays, so it'll be a good
It's a great
read.
gift. It's a great gift for your finance team
Yeah,
and your
totally.
customers and your clients. If you have
Yeah,
any CFO
I agree.
controller clients,
I
they'd
love
love it.
I love giving my clients a good book to read. So thank you for the tip, Greg. It's been a joy meeting you and or talking to you, I should say, and thank you, excuse me, for sharing everything. I look forward to reading your second book also and wish you continued success. Love what you're doing. I love what you're sharing in terms of when it comes to, the role of an accountant and the broader picture of, just from a financial sense. We talked, what you're doing from an AMA, American Management Association, and ensuring that that human edge is pivotal. It's all about what Bee Formless does as well. It's ensuring that human first, people first, and it comes from the inside out. So wishing you a wonderful afternoon and, heading into the end of the week. So thank you, Greg.
All right, no worries. And I really enjoyed being on your show. It's fabulous. I love what you're doing. I've watched a few episodes now, did my homework, and You're really trying to make a difference, which is what we all try to do in life, and
Well,
that's
yeah, like what, it's kind of back to, well, that's what we need to do. It's the impact. It's, like it's just, it's how do we make that future sustainable for the younger generations and even for us as we go forward. There is a lot to look forward to. It's not all doom and gloom.
it certainly is. All right.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Greg.
mate.
Take care.
We'll see you
Thank you.
soon.